another awesome episode. And yes, your eyes don't deceive you if you're watching. Deb is here for 2 episodes in a row, which is incredible. I know 3 is technically a streak, but for Deb, one is even considered a streak because she's never here. Anyway, that's okay. We're not here to talk about Deb's
I was gonna
attendance.
say we're not.
So I knew our guests would
We
appreciate
have
this.
a guest, Josh. So let's
Yeah,
focus on that.
no, I'll get to the guest. I'm sure he's a guy that's very punctual and appreciates when his athletes attend every training session and don't flake out every time. So he gets what I'm saying. Our
Shots
guest,
fired right away. Shots fired right away.
So
I
sorry.
love it. It's my favorite part of the night when we podcast. I just start loading these bullets into my imaginary gun and just take shots at Deb. So thank you for laughing, because sometimes guests don't laugh and I'm like, oops, chose the wrong one to. They didn't get it.
After we're done recording, they're like, they probably think you're so mean to me.
This guy's such a douche. What's wrong with this guy? Anyways, we're not here to talk about our dynamic. We're here to talk about dynamic training. Ooh, you guys see how I did that?
That was a good one.
Thank you. Off the top, we've got Daniel Thomas. He's the owner of Dynamic Training and just an all-around stud. What's going on, man?
How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You know what's crazy? So Daniel and I saw each other the other night out in Roseville. He was out with his lovely wife. I was out with my lovely wife, and we just happened to pass each other on the street there. And I was telling my wife afterwards, I said, it's crazy. That's actually the first time I've met you in person. That's like actually the first time I shook your hand. Every other time has been during the pandemic, during Zooms, which is wild.
So that is crazy.
Yeah.
I know. I feel like I don't even feel like a podcast is in person anymore.
Yeah.
Like they're all Zoom. So like I would feel it would be interesting when like that time does come around, people are like, hey, why don't you come meet me here for a podcast? Like I haven't even had that experience yet. And I've been on a handful of podcasts now. So it's interesting.
Yeah. Well,
he is a wanted man.
Right. Well, and just you feel like you know a person when you talk like this, especially we've spoken to a couple old Josh has. This is my second time, I think, speaking to you since I've missed a couple of them, but
I didn't say it this time, but yeah, you're right.
So, but you feel like, we feel like we know you. So I bet that was weird to see each other in public and be like, I mean, I know you, but I guess this is the first time I've met you in person. So,
well, and it's always like, there's that hesitation of like, do you know me? I know you. Do you know that you know me? Hello, so that was cool, but it was really cool to run into you at the fountains and, just to have a quick little chat and just say what's up in person. So
it was fun. And if anybody's wondering, and if anybody knows Daniel, but you've only seen him on Zoom, he's even better looking in person. Like it might surprise you, but he's a good looking kid. I don't know to tell you guys. Like I had the chance to shake his hand and dap him up a little bit, and yeah, better than expected. So, I don't want to make that awkward to start the thing. My wife's like, "You're such a moron." She knows I start the podcast off this way when we have certain guests on, and so she's like, "How many times have you had Daniel on?" Like, this will be my 3rd time podcasting with him. She's like, "Oh, it's going to be ridiculous. You're gonna say something."
But this is the first time here, right? First time on this one.
Yeah, man. We keep starting podcasts. We can't help ourselves.
I love it.
Yeah, we keep starting podcasts. I will say though, we are consistent with it, because some people, it drives me nuts when someone starts a podcast. Like, we have big plans, and 3 episodes later, they're done.
Kind of like mine. At this point, I just know Josh well enough. I just try to beat him to the punch.
100%.
Yeah.
But you know what? That is most people, to be fair. Like that's most podcasts. Not a lot of people like can really stick with it and be consistent, because it's hard and it's a lot of work.
Sure. Well, I mean,
drop off. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Well, we know you understand that because you own your own business. And I'm sure the same thing that applies to being a consistent podcast applies to a business even more so, right? Like there's so many people that have these grand ideas and they have all of this passion, but then there's the execution that makes it really difficult, right? And so, like, what is it? I mean, obviously, we're just going to kind of jump into it. Like, how long have you been a business owner? How long have you owned Dynamic Training?
Well, I started doing like the training in group settings and like really diving in 2016, but we officially branded and locked down a logo and name and kind of branded it in 2018.
Okay. And I imagine that was like a pretty lengthy process, right? Because I don't think people understand, like, people see your social media, which we'll get into. They see, like not necessarily a finished product, but like you're a brand, you're this huge training facility that does amazing things. But I don't think people understand the amount of work that it takes to be an entrepreneur and a business owner? Like, can you walk us through that a little bit? Like what that process was like building that?
Well, the biggest thing I can say is that in order to continue to grow, whether that's a podcast or a business, if you're wanting to continue to grow, you have to continue to be willing to stretch. And and it's so uncomfortable. And I was even talking to somebody about this like 6 months ago, where I'm like, I never feel like I'm comfortable. Every time I hit a place where I'm like, yeah, things are going good, like there's a new growth or a new stretch or a new vision. And I'm constantly being stretched. And sometimes it's exhausting, and it's tiring because it's like, man, I feel like I can't just chill and relax. But when you're driven and when you want something to continue to grow, you have to be willing to stretch and you have to be willing to be uncomfortable. That's why you hear people say like, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And like that phrase sounds like really charming, but it's a lot. And I think most people underestimate how difficult it is to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I don't think you ever do. I don't think you ever get comfortable being uncomfortable. I think you just do it enough times to where you just know like this is going to happen and this is what's necessary to happen in order to see the growth that you want.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's why a lot of people don't stick with their, initial business idea or entrepreneurship. I will admit I'm a terrible entrepreneur. This is why my podcast only lasts 12 episodes so far and I've not looked back yet. It will come to me one day, but it's difficult and you have to, I think it takes a special person and someone who's driven, and it's not for everybody. And, as I'm sure, it's a lot of hard work, and, yeah, it's not, I couldn't do it. So
It is a lot of hard work. And, I think everybody wants things so fast, because big visions come with, you have this idea of what you want it to be, and like for me, like I love stocks, and like, so like all I want is my stock portfolio to grow. And like, you hit, whether you hit 10,000, you're like, oh, I want 50, and you hit 50,000, you're like, oh, I want six figures, or you hit six figures, now you want 1 million. And, and whether that's in business or podcasts or YouTube, because that's a big area that I've been focusing on lately is YouTube. And it's like, everybody wants it so fast that when it doesn't come so fast, they quit. So really the key to success and winning in any of these areas is you just have to stick with it. And
yeah.
it'll come, but it doesn't come as quick as anybody think it's going to come. So,
And I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but sometimes I don't think people look, I mean, you have to, be in the moment. You have to kind of look ahead as well. And when they're looking ahead, I don't know if people consider how the further you go, so, and everybody's on a different journey, right? So like their path may look different, but for you, if take you, for example, right? You started your business and then you got married, right? So then that adds an extra life challenge that's going to affect the business in some ways potentially. And then now, congrats to you guys on your guys' pregnancy, that you're gonna have a little boy here pretty soon. That's going to add another challenge that's going to affect your business as well. And I think sometimes people don't look at those things that are going to potentially come and really make an already challenging task even more challenging. You know what I'm saying?
for sure. And I think that's why it's so important to, really think those things through when you're considering your life partner, because
Yeah.
they got to know that as well, like what they're getting into, and you have to know, like, I think your life partner makes or breaks you as a entrepreneur, if that's what you are. um, Sometimes significant others can't handle it,
Mm.
and you have to decide, what kind of life do you want? Do you want an unhappy marriage, or do you want a successful business, or can you find a balance between the two? So that's I think that's the people always say like the fastest way to go broke is, going through a divorce. And a lot of divorces happen for entrepreneurs because it doesn't always work out well. So
I'm glad you said that, because that's something that you and I talked about on our last podcast for Home Team was, the importance of the value that your wife plays in your life and in your, we were talking about your training at that point, but like your business, your businesses and everything that you're pursuing, it's such a big part of it. And that was, something I've shared before with my wife. It was one of those things where it's like, okay, this is kind of, I just told her, I said, this is kind of how my mind works. I might start 50 podcasts. I don't know. Are you cool? Are you cool with going on that with me? And she's always been so supportive and so, uh, just, she's always been there when it comes to all those things. And she knows how I am, but I think that's a really important conversation, especially as someone who is an entrepreneur, because man, and I'm not an entrepreneur either, but from what I hear from people there's just so many things. I mean, obviously the financial burden that can come with being an entrepreneur and the challenges. I mean, that alone, just take that one thing, can put a lot of stress on a marriage. That, not to include all the time and effort that goes into it. And I mean, it's a lot. And so if you're not prepared for it, and if you don't have that solid foundation, it's gonna be brutal. It's a rude awakening for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. There's a question that we like to ask in this situation with, you owning your business and, you're married and, you have a baby along the way. How do you find, I mean, it's going to be different when you're, or look different when your baby arrives, but right now, how do you find balance with all of that, with your business, with your home life, with trying to just, maybe relax, or maybe you don't have time to relax, or how do you and your wife find time for each other and to like kind of shut your brains off from the business side of things, because that can be difficult as well. And I think sometimes maybe in relationships they don't know how to do that, and it just becomes too much, and that could lead to breakups or whatever. So what is something that you guys like, what do you have a routine down, or what's something that you guys like to do to try to like shut everything off and just be together for a little bit?
Yeah. Well, I never had zero balance before my wife. So her coming into my life actually brought me some balance because as much as she is awesome and supports me 100%, she's also the one that says, "Hey, like we need to check out. Hey, we need to, go on this vacation." And she forced me to go on vacations. So I'm not like, I don't, I wouldn't go on vacations nearly as often if it wasn't for her. So, she brings an awesome balance that's really, really necessary, but it's so good for me because I would probably run myself into the ground. And I still kind of do, even with her. So without her, I would completely run myself into the ground. Um, but as far as like shutting off, it's really hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard to get away from the business. Like if we go on a 5-day vacation, by day 3, I'm already like, okay, like what's going on? Like I wish I had like live cameras I could watch at all times.
Yeah.
And it's like funny. We were up in we actually got to stay at Edgewood up in Tahoe, which is like a really, really nice resort up there
Awesome.
for her birthday recently. And she was like taking a bath and she had the nice music on and the bubbles. And she's sitting there and I have my little AirPod in. She's like, "What are you watching?" And you look over and it's like, "How to grow your YouTube channel," and she's like, "Oh my gosh, are you serious?" And I'm just laughing because for me, I'm like, if I don't feel like I'm improving, I'm not relaxed. Like I stress out if I feel like I'm being like stationary or not growing or not moving. And so it's something that I can't say that I have a great balance with. Like it's definitely something that I go through every day, but it's just how I'm wired. And I think that in order to like really be successful and to be successful long term as an entrepreneur, you kind of have to have that wiring. Because if you don't have that wiring, eventually your business will plateau, or maybe you need like a business partner that has that wiring. But I think that that's probably what makes my business so successful and like makes my brand so successful, is because when other people quit, some people will last a year, some people 2 years, some people 5 years, but like when I just keep my foot on the gas constantly, I feel like that's what really will separates me long term. And people are like, "Wow, you're emailing me back at 10:30 at night." I'm like, "Yeah, I got in trouble for that one. Don't tell anyone." um but so it's a good and a bad thing, but I think that you have to a certain extent have that itch. You have to have that mindset if you're going to be successful long term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. The word obsessed comes to my mind, and not obsessed in a bad way. But, and I feel like we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
I feel like we're going back to character combine a little bit, but it's
Probably.
just, no, right. But this is a good topic, and just who cares? This is just how the three of us talk. So you do have to be obsessed with what you're doing. And it sounds like you are.
100%.
That is something that is going to help you to continue to be successful, like to constantly want to improve and think about it and evolve. And it sounds like it's not in an unhealthy way, obviously. Like you're still like God, like you're married with a kid on the way, like you're doing something right, so but you're still wanting to grow your business, and you're still constantly thinking of things, and like you said, that's just how you're wired, and you just need to go with it.
Yeah, and I think sometimes the the unhealthy side is that when you're in a service-based business, and you're a people pleaser and you want to make people happy and you want things to go well, Sometimes you put yourself on the back burner. I don't necessarily put my wife on the back burner. I think the issue more of balance would be like myself personally. So like I go through periods where like I, skip my own workouts to train everybody else. And so like I'll go through a phase where I'm like, man, I really need to start blocking out times for me, like my own personal workouts, my own personal journey. And like that's not work related. That's just like my own therapy. Um, and so I go through waves and it's an up and down flow trying to find that balance between like because you have to be willing to turn down business to take time for yourself. And it's hard because the business side of me goes opportunity cost. Like, oh yeah, I get therapy and I get to get my workout in, but I could have made this many dollars. I could have done this in that time. So, but I think you start realizing as you go through the process, like money is awesome, success is awesome. But if you don't have like a clear mind and if you don't have, a positive mental health that at the end of the day that money doesn't mean anything. So it's hard, but it's something that I think everybody kind of struggles with but works on towards finding that balance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Great.
that makes sense. And no, I'm glad we're talking about the obsession thing because I'm sure we did talk about it, but this is probably 100% better than it was last time because we're better podcasters than we were then. But no, it is a tricky balance because when you are passionate about something, you enjoy doing it, right? And so like some people, you go to a 9 to 5 and you don't necessarily enjoy doing that. So when you can go out and run, work out, spend time with family, that is the therapeutic, relaxing thing, right? But when you're passionate about something, that's kind of part of the thing that helps you relax too, right? Like it doesn't seem like it to everybody else, but that obsession is like, well, actually, I feel really good right now because I'm doing the thing that I love. But I think, the fact that you're aware, I think the problem with some people is that they're not aware that they're wired a certain way and they just go, go, go. And then they are putting, loved ones on the back burner. They're putting their own self on the back burner, but they're not aware of it. I think that's where, you seem like you're really aware and in tune with that idea. So even though you are obsessed with it and you are wired that way, it's probably why you're able to find some balance sometimes, even if you have to force yourself to do it. You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah,
Um,
100%. Self-awareness is so big, I think for everything in life, not just business. And I feel pretty blessed that I do feel like I'm pretty self-aware. Obviously growing constantly, but I do feel like I'm pretty self-aware considering. So I'm happy with that.
yeah. Let me ask you this, man, because you mentioned, emailing people at 10:30 at night or, watching the YouTube videos about how to grow your following and all that stuff. This has happened to me quite a bit, and my wife can confirm this. It'll be late at night and she's like, hey, going to bed soon? I'm like, yeah, a couple more minutes. A couple more minutes is like 2 hours. And she's like, what time did you go to bed? It's like, it was like 2:30. She's like, what? Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see the happens all the time. And now she's like, okay, cool. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Cause it's just, she just knows how it is. But has that happened to you? Have you had that situation?
Yeah, so yes, and easy answer is yes. The thing with me that kind of drives my wife nuts is like anytime I'm not working. So if I'm eating, whether it's lunch, whether it's dinner, or like right now, like I just got off work at 8 o'clock and I'll come home, I put a TV show on or a movie. And she hates it because she's not a big like movie watcher, and she feels like for me, what it is, it's white noise in the background. Like I'll put on a movie I've seen a million times, like The Other Guys, right? Will Ferrell.
Good choice.
I will put that movie on, and it will like drown out my thoughts because I'm so constantly, what am I doing next for my business? What do I have going on tomorrow? What do I have going on? Like I won't step away from the business side of things unless there's something kind of distracting me. So like even if I'm eating my food, if I'm just eating, I will be thinking about what I'm programming next, what workout I'm programming, what team I have coming up, what do I have, what am I doing next? But if I put like a movie on the background and it's something I've seen 30 times, I'll hear something, I kind of laugh and giggle, some dumb line that I hear, and desk pop, you
Yeah.
know, um,
That's
and
awesome.
and it's not even that I care to watch it, and that's what I try to tell her. Like, I'll have a full blown conversation with her, and not even watch it, but it helps me escape, and it's really interesting because I don't think a lot of people know that about me, but I'm a big like movie guy. Like I watch the same movie 1,000 times, like Dodgeball. I love dumb
Nice.
funny movies.
Why are we
And
talking about your
yeah, it's
business?
something
We
that
should be
brings me
talking about
away.
movies. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
What do we do? I didn't know this about him.
I love movies.
Scratch the whole
I
thing.
do.
Let's just talk movies. Yeah,
Yeah, let's do it.
go
I'm
ahead.
in.
Yeah. I'm the same way. As soon as it's usually when because I go from work to working out and then I come home. And sometimes I have I still work when I come home. Sometimes I have like it's called like virtual home visits, like, but just through Zoom. I talk to students and families and stuff and do check-ins. I do it with another teacher. And then after that, I'm just like, oh my God. And then I put something on in the background, The Office, something, but it has to be something I've seen. So
100%.
like, it can't be a new thing because I'm not going to pay attention. I'm going to be on my phone scrolling through TikTok or just to do something mindless, or I'm going to be eating and just sitting there and just kind of looking and watching and being like, oh, I don't remember that part. Okay, cool. And just like, eat. And it just has to be white noise. So I totally get it. And I think that it's a good way to wind down.
Yeah, it helps me check out like
sometimes.
No, it really does. Like I would fall asleep to movies every night. A movie I've seen already, I would fall asleep every night, and that's something I've had to work on because my wife, she will stay up. If a movie started, she will not go to sleep till it finishes.
Ooh,
And like not me,
dedication.
I will start a movie and like 5 minutes in,
Yeah.
done. Just putting it
Gone.
on like checked me out. So,
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Deb's watched One Tree Hill while we're podcasting. I've seen it on our TV before.
No, it was paused. I wasn't watching it. I even showed him. I like moved I was like, look, it's paused and not watching it.
Yeah, I know how controllers work. You press the pause button as you're turning it. Let's calm down. She was watching One Tree Hill for like the 100th time while we're having a conversation. I get it. It's fine.
She's got subtitles on. It's just on mute.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. She's just reading it.
He knows.
Yeah. Doing this. I keep looking over like,
whatever you say, Josh. Yeah. She's more interested in watching a rerun of One Tree Hill than a rerun of this podcast. She's like, oh gosh, I don't have to talk to this clown again. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, we all have things that calm us down and make us wind down. We all have our thing. So don't hate.
That doesn't save you in this part of the yeah, there you go. Hey man, what is your favorite movie?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. That's so hard.
Ooh, all right.
That's a tough that
you put him on the spot. He watches the same movie over and over again, Josh.
I do. That's the hard part. And I totally like I grew up, I'm a big mama's boy, so like I love rom-coms. The cheesier the better, like Hallmark all day.
Really?
And we love, and like I'm the worst person to watch a Hallmark with because I'm like, oh, see, this conflict's gonna happen. The conflict's gonna happen, and then they're gonna make up. And then when she appears in a red peacoat, that's what's gonna happen. The red peacoat is always the star. When the Hallmark movie starts, look for a red, like heavy peacoat, and that is gonna be the star actress in the movie. And then at some point, it'll be in the summer of Arizona, and snow will fall over her while she kisses him at the end. Like, that's just some desert land, midsummer, and snow's falling. Like, I got it down. But we watch a lot of Hallmarks.
That was impressive.
You said rom-com, romantic, so like The Notebook, or is that too romantic, or do you not want to admit it?
That was not funny though, is it? Is that comedy?
It's not. It's like I'm a big Ryan Reynolds fan, right? I love that guy.
Okay.
So like The Proposal, great movie.
Yeah, that's a great
I can appreciate that one.
Oh, Definitely Maybe. That's him, right?
Yeah. What?
Definitely Maybe.
I don't know. I don't know if I've seen that.
Yeah. I haven't seen it either, but I think yeah.
Okay.
Let's just say Definitely Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll say.
I mean, maybe, definitely.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Well, hey, that's good. I didn't know that about you. We've done this a few times, and we're learning something new. The rom-coms. Hitch is right.
Great movie.
Hitch is awesome.
Yes, great movie.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, that's good to know. So rom-coms. We're not sure about the favorite movie. You'll have to let us know after you think about it.
And I'm a big movie quote guy too. Like I was talking movie quotes, and my wife always laughs because when I do, no matter what movie it is, it comes out in a Ron Burgundy voice.
I was that's
like no matter what the line is, it'll just come out in that Ron Burgundy voice. But like 60% of the time, it works every time. Awesome. She's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, don't act like you're not impressed.
So is she not as big of a movie person? Because I'll tell you what, when you have a person that's like loves movies and quotes movies all the time, and they're with a person that doesn't, it's a weird dynamic for sure. So is that what you're dealing with right now?
She likes movies, but she doesn't like the dumb ones that I like. Like she doesn't like dumb funny, which is Will Ferrell, which is like almost all my go-to movies. So, but every now and then we'll be saying something and she'll pull out a movie line that just hits, and I'm like, That's my girl.
The
It's
single
my
tear.
girl.
Yep.
Yeah.
The tear drops. I high five her. We're like chest bumping. People are like, what? And I'm like, she just dropped a movie line, and it was great.
That's
So
good. Hey,
yeah.
this is gonna work out. Your kid's gonna have an awesome life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
He's
movie
not gonna
quotes all
know.
the time.
Yeah, just speaking in movie quotes, 100%.
Do you,
It's all
what
good.
about Adam Sandler? Is he?
Oh yeah, love him.
Mm.
Love his movies. He's a good rom-com guy too lately. Like what?
Not
Just
bad.
Go With It.
We love that movie at
That's
this
a great
house.
movie.
Yeah.
That's a really good movie.
He's
Yeah.
still.
But I like his old stuff too.
Yeah.
I've probably watched Happy Gilmore 8,000 times. Yeah,
Well,
you start
classic.
noticing all the extras that he has in every single movie
Mhm.
at all
All-
times, you know.
all of
So
his buddies. Yeah. Well, I
yeah,
heard somebody in an interview say, like, because some of his movies, I mean, they're not going to win any Academy Awards, like his comedies, right? The one with the basketball, or the what's it called, the
oh,
one that
recently.
the recent. Well, he did the basketball one recently,
Oh.
but prior to that was the gambling one. What was the name
Yeah.
of that? Uncut Gems. Outside of those two, he's not going to win any Academy Awards, right? But I heard somebody in an interview podcast or a podcast interview say, like, they almost wonder if he just does these movies to go to like Hawaii, to go to these tropical places with his buddies, because all of his buddies are in these movies. Like, that's not a bad idea. That's pretty smart.
Yeah.
He gets
You
paid
know,
a
and I
lot of
don't
money.
know. I think those newest movies that are a little bit more like, I don't want to say professional. What's the right word? Grammy type
More
movies.
serious.
I think they're like Netflix originals, not necessarily his films.
Right.
Mm.
Right.
So I think that's
A
the
little
biggest
different.
difference. If it says like Happy Madison Productions or whatever, you know it's going
His
to be just
company.
straight comedy. Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah. We could talk about this forever, but that's not why we had Daniel on the podcast.
I mean,
sorry, guys.
No, hey, that's why we do this podcast, man. This one, if you thought the other ones we did were unstructured, this one's even worse. So we have no direction on this one.
because I just show up when I want to, so that's how
That's
unstructured.
right.
Oh, she is not lying. Yeah. I have some we have our 100th episode coming up. After this one, it will be our 100th episode of this podcast. And yeah, I have some interesting facts to share with Deb, but I'm going to save it for that episode.
I'm not going to lie. I was surprised when I saw the camera switch to her. I was like, oh, hey, look who's here. Like, I wasn't ready for it.
We're done. This is it.
But
that's a soundbite.
But I love it. It's awesome.
Well, that makes one of us. Because here's the thing, man. I'm in a weird spot. Like, I complain about Deb not being here, but then when she's here, it's like, wow, was this a mistake? Like, should I have encouraged her to come back? You know what I mean? And
no, I don't know what you mean.
Such a good sense of humor that she laughed, because at some point, this is going to turn really bad, and she's just going to look at me like, "That's it. I hate your guts," and she's not going to be laughing anymore. So
in the meeting,
yeah. Anyways, yeah, this went off the rails. That's okay. That's why we do it. So
I know it does.
let me ask you this, man. You have an impressive social media following. Like, it was impressive when we first met you, but like, it's just somehow grown leaps and bounds since then. And I think we first had a conversation with you, I mean, at least 2 years ago. It's been a while, at least 2 years ago.
It's been a while.
So it's just crazy and really cool to see how much your social media has grown and how much people love following you. By the way, not to interrupt my own thought, but this podcast, we do a guest of the year competition at the end of the year, which we are currently with the Character Combine 2020 guest of the year. And so last year, Paul Piercy won, which I know you just did his podcast recently. So
yeah,
had some big competition in this series competition.
I can't.
Paul's got a really good following too. So
he does. They really showed up for that tournament too. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be a slugfest for sure. But anyways, that being said, you have a lot of people that love you. What's that?
I love the tournaments. Probably like my most favorite thing about the podcast. It's why I stick around. So I stick around.
See, the thing that people don't know is like, you know, people can love you, but I also can like have that secret, like, hey, vote for me because you love me. And then if they don't vote for me, I'm like, I can inflict pain on you right now if you don't go vote for me. So there's a little bit of that. There's a little bit of that fear tactic as well. You know, I'm like, hey, just in case anyone's wondering, if you didn't vote for me, you're gonna die today. And then they're all like, wait, mom, dad, I don't have Instagram.
Training.
My mom does. I'm like, go make it happen.
Hey, and anybody who doesn't know Daniel, he is not lying, because when we did the competition, the first time doing this competition for Character Combine, some of your athletes voted so fast. And not only did they vote, like the voting was very clear. You vote in the stories, and that's it. We had some kids that would vote and then send us a DMs like, "Hey, make sure this is for Daniel Thomas." I got it, bro. You're good. I don't know what he threatened you with, but it's okay.
Yes.
Lots of
Yes.
he threatened lots of burpees, probably lots
Yeah.
of
Oh,
like,
I hate burpees.
jump squats.
I do too, man. Probably because
I've
I'm not
already
out of
thought
shape.
about it. If I ever create a CrossFit gym, it would be called Burpeeless. CrossFit
Ooh,
Burpeeless.
I'd go to that. I'd go to
Yeah,
that.
right? I
Yeah,
hate burpees.
not a
I
fan.
The passion.
I've come to love burpees only because I made myself do them so much because I hated them. So now when I'm working out in my boxing gym and they give you a choice of like when we're in a conditioning round and they're like, okay, punch the bag, whatever, how many times, and then you're going to do either 10 push-ups or 10 burpees. They'll give you choices and you can choose whatever. I always choose the burpees.
Yeah, I
Always.
don't know if I can trust you anymore.
I've become psychotic.
Welcome to my world, man. Welcome
I
to
don't
my
know if I
world.
can trust you anymore.
It's understandable. I've been trying to tell people, so people are starting to see the true Deb. She's a psychopath.
That's how you got to explain it to her when you're like, hey, you know, they're like, Deb's really nice. You're like, but she'll choose burpees. And they're like, whoa, whoa. You know,
You got to say,
That's it. I've been doing this. I'm glad we're having this conversation. I've been doing it wrong the whole time.
I love it.
So, anyways, my original thought: your social media is getting so big, and it's cool to see. But I imagine, because I know from what I've seen in the conversations we've had, like you have a desire to like see people's lives impacted in a positive way. Obviously, with social media, that can go one way or the other depending on how someone chooses to use it, right? And so, at what point did you get? At what point did you feel like, oh man, I actually have a really big responsibility because there's a lot of eyeballs that are seeing the things that I'm posting. There's a lot of people that are listening to what I'm saying. Like, at what point did you realize that there's a lot of responsibility that comes with your following?
I don't even know if I still to this day have realized that, to be
Really
honest with you.
interesting.
A lot of my posts and a lot of my videos come from because the one thing I have that I think maybe not all social media people or influencers, whatever you call them, have is I'm in front of like hundreds of people every day, different athletes, different adults. And so I see a lot of problems and I talk with a lot of parents firsthand. Like, I think I'm like half a therapist, half a trainer and a coach, you know, because, you know, I want to be that mentor and I do love these kids and I want them to be better. So I think parents, you know, they'll come to me with, hey, you know, little Johnny, he's struggling because, you know, he thinks coach doesn't like him and, you know, he's not getting playing time or he doesn't have this or that. So then what happens? A YouTube video. What to do when coach doesn't like you or what to do when you think coach doesn't like you, you know,
That's a good one.
because it's so hard for me to address like a topic and I'll get the same question from like multiple people. And I'm like, it takes a lot of time to talk to all these people about it. I know it's a really big issue, like I don't want to say globally, but you know, like it's a really big issue for a lot of people. And so I'm like, you know what, I just need to take 10 minutes and put down my thoughts and what I believe and how I'd go about it or my own personal experiences. And then it allows me to have a link to a YouTube video and then for me to be like, hey, boom, 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 boom. Let me send this out to all my high school athletes because I think this is something that people are struggling with. And so it's not that I look at videos like I have a responsibility to help them. How can I help them? It's more of I see these issues and topics that come up. And once I notice a pattern, like, oh, I've heard this like 3 times in the last, you know, month or a couple of weeks, then I'm like, okay, this is a hot topic that I really need to, you know, give my advice on or give my life experiences on because it's not always great, but sometimes it's important for the kids to know like, hey, this has happened to me too. This is how I handled it, and this was the outcome.
nice. Yeah, that's a smart way to do it though, to get the information out.
Yeah. So, you know, like I said, I think I'm lucky to have interactions with a lot of people. So that's kind of what stimulates and what you know, causes me to create certain content.
Yeah. No, I love that, man. That was actually one of the questions I had for you, which I mean, you kind of already addressed because it is called Connectable. And our whole, you know, as much as we just kind of goof around and talk about, you know, silly things, like the whole idea is connecting, right? Connecting with our guests. Hopefully our guests can connect with our audience and vice versa. And a big part of what you do, obviously, you know, in our past conversations, I focused a lot on your connection with your athletes, right? They've got to, like, and you've said it best, like they have to know that you care, or however you word it, right? They have to know that you care before they care. You said it better. That's why we have guests on the show because I can't do
yes, yes, yes.
it. but basically they need to know that you care, right? In order to buy in. And we always talk about that, but there's a whole other side of what you do, which is connecting with the parents, because the parents have to know that you are trustworthy and that you have their athletes best in mind, and that you're not going to, you know, be reckless with their young athlete, where I'm sure some trainers out there don't give that much thought or care to what happens. They're just like, okay, I'm just going to push them as hard as possible and hopefully everything's good, right? And so, you know, how much time do you feel like you spend connecting with the parents of these athletes? 'Cause I imagine it's more than people would realize.
Yeah, I mean, I think for like, because I do both private trainings, I don't do nearly as many private trainings, which is like a one-on-one or like a really small group of two or three, more intimate. And so with those athletes, I get the luxury of creating like really, really strong relation, almost mentor like relationships. And so with them, you know, I talk with those parents constantly all the time. And sometimes we even joke about it. Like they'll show up to training, they'll be like, "Hey, you know, this workout's a little extra hard. Mom told me you didn't clean the room today. Like we're dropping the hammer on you." Like and they're like, "What? My room's clean, coach." I'm like, "All right, it better be." You know, we go really far, but like, we do take it a step further. Like sometimes we'll finish a whole hour of training and mom or dad will be like, "Here's your water bottle, little Billy." And then they'll be like, "No, you hold it." And I'm like, "Whoa, like get your butt over here. You don't talk to your mother like that. Go say thank you for bringing me." The parents are like, "Thank you." So we really do take that role. And I really harp on that with my coaches of like, we're not just trainers, like we are mentors, and we are like, they look up to us. And so it's our, job to set that example. And no matter how much a parent knows, kids just hit an age where like mom and dad don't know anything. Right.
Mhm.
So, and I'm terrified of that to come, because I know at some point I'm not going to know anything. My kid's not going to think I know anything either. So,
Yeah.
but that is a really big thing. And it's like being that positive voice that the parents can no longer be at a certain age, is really important. So I really harp on that with my coaches of like, take the extra time after class to go. All the kids are really respectful. They come up and they always say, "Thanks, coach," but we get a chance to talk to the parents afterwards, and parents will text us and, send us messages on social media and things like that. So it's really cool that the parents are so open, but we also do ask for it. We're like, "Hey, like, let us know. Like, if somebody's not acting right, like, let us know. If somebody is acting right, let us know," because we try to be involved as much as possible. So,
Yeah. That's awesome. And it's definitely, like I said, man, I was joking before, but like the amount of extra DMs, comments that were left during that last competition that we did for you from parents was awesome, because it was one of those things that we weren't, like Deb and I talked about, like we weren't expecting that. We thought, hey, this would be a fun competition to kind of get everybody's competitive juices going. But I mean, so many people, so many parents were like, "Man, we love this dude and his team because of how they've impacted our athlete," or the amount of time. And it was a cool thing that came from that, man. So you're definitely doing a lot of great things, because yeah, a lot of people just love you, man. So it's cool to see.
that's awesome. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. It feels good, to hear that from outside sources, because I'm not good at telling myself that, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's all true. If anybody knows me, I would never say that if it wasn't true. I would keep quiet. So 100% true, man.
Josh has asked you to be a guest 3 times, so you know he
Well, I
respects.
just hope he keeps making more podcasts so I can just keep getting more content, right? You know what I mean? So
Hey,
it
man,
works
if I
out
if I
great.
do another podcast, I might be divorced. My wife's like, "That's it.
It's okay.
Three and
I'll
you're
just
done.
You have
no, no.
you have more podcasts than kids. What are you doing?" Like, I'm
I
sorry.
have, I'll just start off I'll just get back on my podcast since I've taken a break. That was season 1. I'll start season 2, and I will have my first male guests on. It'll be both of you guys. So
Oh
bam,
my
there you
gosh.
go. And you'll be
I
on the
love it.
Don't hold your breath, Daniel. She's promised that to me before. And now here's the thing, man. I don't want to make it about us because we do have a guest, but Deb brought it up. I have had her on home team as a guest because I respect her for the most part. And so, now it's like I'm just waiting for my invite to her podcast. And she's like, I don't know, I'm gonna do it again. This is garbage. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm done.
It's all right. I'll get
well,
a virtual, whatever the technology is in 20 years. You remember me? I'm inviting you and Josh on my virtual podcast. Like, who is this?
Who's this guy?
I'm like, remember, it's the redhead who likes burpees.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, now I remember.
Decline. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
She's a
Shut it
flight.
down. Yeah.
There you go. There's your
That's
next
awesome.
invite. You don't,
Hey,
Josh, you don't need to create a new podcast. You guys can just come on mine. So,
I might just start one with Daniel at this point.
I mean,
You know what I mean?
Well,
I know he's got a
one
lot
of
of
my
stuff going on.
coaches has been begging me for like 6 months. He's like, dude, you're doing another podcast. Like, how many are you gonna do before we start around? And I'm like, I am not ready for that ship. I'm not. But
It's a good question
he
though.
wants to do it bad.
Now, which coach is this?
It's Coach Spence. He
Okay.
loves podcasts. He
Yeah.
wants to do them. I'm just like, you know me, like from what I've told you, like when I do something, I'm like, okay, I need 28 pieces of content every day. Like this needs to happen. Like I go all in. I got the Gary V mentality, you know.
yeah.
And then I listened to like the worst video ever. It was this, I forgot what the entrepreneur's name is, Alex something. He's super jacked. He met with like Grant Cardone, and it was this huge meeting about how Alex was putting out like 7 pieces of content a week. And Grant Cardone was like, oh, really? You need to up it to 80. And I'm like,
80. My gosh.
exhausted just thinking about it. I'm like, how do you even come up with that much content? So if I start a podcast, I'm going to need to do like 3 a week. And I just can't handle that right now.
Yeah,
Well,
probably not. Not with a baby on the way. That would be a mistake.
got a baby that's coming. Just
Yeah.
I've already got full blown plans. The YouTube channel is going to blow up when the baby's right here in the videos. You just wait. It's going to be, I already have DT onesies. They're made.
Oh my
Oh,
god,
They're made.
that is awesome.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
So
Nice.
he'll be my co-host one day.
That will work. That will work. He's already thinking ahead. I like it. Hey, let me ask you this, man. Who's more excited? Because I know that your dad is your dad is super involved in your life. I know he's one of your coaches. At least he was. I don't know if he's still doing it, but who's more excited for the arrival of this baby? Is it you and your wife, or is it your parents? And her parents? Because I know how it was for me. As excited as we were, I'm like, my mom might be even more excited.
Definitely my dad takes the crown over everyone.
Aw.
Like to like an inappropriate level. Like I remember when like my wife wasn't even pregnant and we'd be in the gym and they'd be like, "Oh, congratulations." I'm like, "On what?" Like your dad said you're having a grandson. I'm like, "What?" 'Cause he's like, "They're working on my grandson." I'm like, "Whoa, like there's kids around." Like people thought we were legit pregnant because he was constantly going around telling people like, "Yep, my grandson's in the works. My grandson's in the works."
Funny.
And like he just called it out as grandson. And so like at the gender reveal, my wife's whole side of the family, because they're all girls, they don't have any
Yeah.
boys in the family over there.
Hmm.
And so they were like, "Oh, you're having a girl. Like, sorry, bud, like you're just having a girl." And my dad's like, "I heard from the Lord, the word of the Lord, and the Lord told me you were having a boy." And I'm like, "Dad, that's a bold statement, because if I have a girl, now your connection to the Lord is a little suspect." You know what I mean? So and then it happened to be a boy, and he was like, "I told you." And my dad does talk like that. Yes, he does.
Oh,
My
no, I
dad
heard
is
the
like
videos. That's a good
my
impression.
dad is like the closest thing to The Rock in a real life situation. Like how The Rock says like weirdly inappropriate things but gets away with it because
Yeah.
he's The Rock. That's my dad. He says things that like I look at him, I'm like, "What did you just say?" And then people start blushing, and I'm like, "Oh my god, okay." Like, and he just gets away with it. He's the most charismatic person I've ever met. Like people tell me like, "Oh, DT, you're so smooth or charismatic." I'm literally like a tenth of my dad. My dad walks in a room and it just lights up, and everyone around him just. We were sitting at a. I know I'm going off topic now. Sorry, but
Love it.
we were sitting
That's
at
what we do.
some restaurant, and we're in a booth and we're just talking, and this random guy from like across the restaurant gets up and goes, "I know that voice. Is that Bill Thomas?" And my dad's like, "Yeah." And I'm, like doesn't really act like my dad's super friendly. My dad's like, "Yeah, how you doing?" He's like, I remember we spoke 27 years ago at this place. Like one time my dad meets this guy and he recognizes his
Whoa.
voice from across the restaurant. Like
Wow.
the impact that my dad has, like his gift in life is 100% like the impact. He can make someone feel like $1 million and like family in like 10 seconds. And it's really impressive. So my dad is
That's cool.
quite the guy. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I'll tell you what, man, that's gonna like once he has that little baby in his hands, like that charisma is gonna go like 10 times. It's gonna be like charisma on steroids. Something about when they hold their grandbabies, it just goes to the roof. So buckle up, man. It's gonna
Oh yeah, we're gonna use him as leverage. We already got it handled. Like, Dad, if you keep saying inappropriate things, your grandson, you're not seeing him for 2 days. All right, you need.
it was like old school earmuffs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's awesome, man. Well, hey man, we want to be respectful of your time. Deb, do you have any other questions for Daniel? I mean, we could do this forever, but
No. Let's see.
I put Deb on the spot.
I know. No, I was gonna. Okay, tell us the name of your kid. I'm just kidding. Don't do.
Oh, that's a good.
That's the question I had.
I like that though. We're not gonna ask you that question, but like, how long was that process? Have you guys decided? I'm assuming you guys decided.
We went back and forth for a long time, and now we have decided. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
One thing I could tell you is the one stipulation that I told my wife was like, I don't have to name him, but it has to be a D name because I want a DT. I want to
DT
keep the
Junior.
DT alive. Yeah, a little. I didn't want like a junior necessarily, because I don't
Yeah,
want people to call him junior, but like I wanted to keep the DT alive just for the.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that it meant something to me. So
100%. I like that. That's awesome.
Well, we can't wait for the name reveal when the big day comes. So
Yeah.
for sure, we kind of started telling people. I don't know how. She hasn't told me not to tell people, but I know that's like a thing.
I'll tell you
Is
what,
that you're
on
not
a
supposed to
podcast
like
would be
tell
a bad
people
idea.
or
Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Well, her sister is the only person that, her sister's baby was due on Saturday
okay.
and
Oh,
she
that's
still
right.
hasn't had it yet. So she's a couple days past her due date. So, and she's due having a boy as well. And
Oh,
so, yeah, their baby boy and his name's Cash.
Okay.
And
wow.
so I really wanted Dash. She's going to hate me that I brought this up on the podcast, but because she absolutely hates
Oh,
it. Everyone I talk to, I convince them in like 5 seconds. Okay, you ready? 3, 2, 1. Here we go. This is why it's Dash. Okay, first off, Cash and Dash, they're gonna be best friends. Her name is Ashley. My name is Daniel. Dash. Boom. D and Ash.
yeah.
Pretty good.
She ran track at Sac State. I was a football player. Everything we do is speed related. It's all about dash, 40-yard dash, 100-meter dash.
Makes
I'm like,
sense.
this kid's gonna be a speed demon. Like, we got to just name him and just stamp it. It's gonna happen. And she's like, veto immediately. Not a
Oh,
chance.
Immediately.
I know.
well,
Has she not seen
Immediately.
The Incredibles?
She has seen The Incredibles, and
good
then
call.
there's this new movie that just came out. Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum. Amazon.
Oh,
Lost City.
I almost watched it.
The Lost City.
Yeah.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
Channing Tatum in the beginning, he's got like the long Fabio hair and like the shirt that blows open. His name's Dash.
Oh.
And Ashley's like,
Ooh.
see,
Dang.
that's why we're not naming him Dash. And I was like, gosh dang it.
That was bad
I was
timing.
like, I know. I was like, that's the only valid point she has on me right now is that one.
Well, that's a bummer. I'm sorry, man.
So,
The
it's
world's
okay.
missing out on a superhero, unfortunately.
I
but
know.
what can you do?
It's all good.
That's funny. You know, I'm gonna say this: when Daniel and I ran into each other at the fountains, he did mention that there was gonna be the cousins that were gonna be super close together, both boys, and he's like, it's gonna be a lot of fun until they get super competitive and then start fighting. I'm like, that's a good point. A lot of competitive juices running in that family, so it could be a slugfest. A lot of blood, a lot of band-aids. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah. I'm gonna be like, we love your cousin, but you better destroy him and everything.
Right. That's exactly what Daniel. I forgot about that part. Yeah, that's exactly what he said. Like, this is gonna be fun to watch. So keep an eye on Daniel's YouTube page because I'm sure that a lot of this is gonna happen.
Totally, for sure, it will.
Backyard brawls. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. No, we're definitely excited for you. Let me ask you. This is kind of a big question, but like, is there one thing specifically that you're looking forward to about being a dad?
That is a big question. I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't know if there's one big specific thing. I've always like kind of had the heart for that. Like, I don't know if it's because I was just such a mama's boy growing up, but like I was the kind of person actually I assumed I was gonna have kids at a younger age just because I love kids so much. I think my business might have actually given me some birth control. Being around so many kids all the time. I'm like, I can wait a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
but I think I think the biggest thing that I look forward to is, I think this world, the one thing that it really needs is it needs good, strong, like respectful men. I think that's something that's lacking in this world right now. Leadership from a male and like a good quality, just human being. And so I'm just excited to be able to know like that I'm going to be bringing that into the world. And like, I'm excited to raise up like a good young man that's going to, not only represent his family, but like just be a good male person and figure and leader out in the world. So that's what I'm really excited about is I think there's a big need for it. And and I'm excited to hopefully, add to that in the world.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I love that,
I
man.
on the same token that, you're like, these kids, oh, that's enough birth control for me. I mean, yeah, there was that. But you've also had, if you think of it this way, you have all this practice with all these young men and teenagers and that whole age group that it's like practice, I think. And, I think that, that you thinking about like wanting to be just like a good father and a good role model and a good, male figure is from that. You know what I'm saying? It's because maybe in some level you've realized that you are that person for those kids. And so I think that that's a great point to, bring up, because unfortunately a lot of kids just don't have that. And so,
Yeah, and I've realized I like girls way better. Female athletes are way better than male athletes until like 13, 14. And when all of a sudden I tell them like, hey, come over to this cone, they're like,
Yeah.
whoa, you don't have to come to the cone. I just think that's where we're trying to go to the next drill if you want to go that way. But but like little boys are just crazy around, like all over the place. I'm like, this is what we're doing. They're squirrel, and I'm like, oh gosh, like focus. And the girls are so cute and they're so mature and sweet. So I'm like, okay, we're gonna have a little boy. He's gonna be jumping off tables and not focusing on anything. So it's okay. I'm excited. We're ready for it.
Yeah.
Well, we're excited to see all the adventures unfolding in the future.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So congrats to you guys again.
When she comes out with when her next episode on our podcast and we're on it, my little boy will be like 2-3 years old, and so he'll be able to join us on the podcast.
That's very generous of you. Josh, I was thinking like 12 or 13, 2 or 3.
I was gonna say 3. Josh, I knew what Josh was gonna say. He was gonna say he's gonna be like 13 before she gets on the podcast.
Yeah, man, you're probably gonna be a grandpa at that point by the time Deb comes out with a new podcast. So that's very generous.
Dad,
look at that.
Dad, this is the lady you were telling me about.
Yeah, the burpee lover.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying, Deb. This is the kind of reputation you have here with our audience and our guests. Okay. So
it's entertainment, so that's fine.
That's very
100%.
true.
You're welcome. So
thank you. It's a good way to spin it. Yeah. So, hey man, where can they follow you on social media, everywhere that you post content? Like if you can't find Daniel, you're not trying, but tell the people to make sure they can find you. Where can they locate you?
So all social media platforms, you can find us at Fit Life of DT, and on YouTube, it's Dynamic Training with DT.
Awesome. You know what? I'm glad you said that, because that reminds me, I'm sure you saw us back when we were doing Character Combine. We had a little blooper reel.
I know what you're gonna say.
I'm gonna keep going with the story. So we used to do this thing where after we were done recording with our guests, we would log off, and then we would record like a prelude, basically saying, hey, this is what we talked about. Enjoy this episode. Well, Deb did it this time, which I usually do them. And I'm like, hey, Deb, why don't you take this one? And she's like, yeah, we had the owner of Dynamite Training. I'm like, oh my gosh.
It sounded good.
I did not. Dynamite Training.
Straight in my head, and I don't think I realized I said that, but I think it's.
You know what?
That
was my nick. My mom called me Dynamite DT growing up, so you weren't far off.
I was
there. You go.
So.
Does that make you feel better,
right
Deb?
There.
Yeah. She was so mad. She's like, what? I called it. I said, I'm like, yeah, no, that's the problem. She said Dynamite. It sounds like something like Bugs Bunny would own.
As soon as I saw Daniel Thomas on our Connectables calendar schedule, I was like, oh, Dynamite Training.
Dynamite. I love it. You know what? It's not a bad idea.
Okay,
maybe
well,
dyslexic slightly, but Dynamite, Kinetic, we're good. It's all the same.
Well, there you go, Deb. You lucked out this
time.
No worries. That's not how I expected it to go. I was hoping Daniel would be offended. Like, how dare you? Nope. He just rolled with it. So
he's like, oh, that's great. It's a great
good name. I like that. He's by my nickname. Well, hey, man. As always, we appreciate your time. And like, again, we're just thankful for all that you're doing in our community, and for all the athletes and parents and families, man, that you're helping out. Like, we definitely appreciate you. And man, we look forward to seeing you compete in this year's Guest of the Year bracket. We know you'll bring it, so we're excited for that, man. So
I don't compete. All right, we're taking that dub. That's it. I'm calling it out right now.
Oh wow.
Everybody's been put on notice.
Just make sure there's a Connectable podcast belt or crown, because I have the belt from Character Combine if anyone needs to see it.
I have to
Just
think of
saying.
something else.
We do have a belt, and we have to think of something else to like raise the stakes. We'll talk, Deb. But yeah, I like it. This is what I like. This is my favorite part of the competition, the trash talk.
Oh, 100%. It has to happen.
Yeah. All right, perfect. There we go. The hammer has been dropped.
Yeah.
There we go. You know, we have quite a few months, but still, we'll get there eventually. Awesome, man.
Thank you now.
Yeah. Thank you so much, man. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you soon. Good luck with everything.
You guys appreciate it.
Thanks for watching the show. If you enjoyed that episode, make sure you like it, share it, and hit the subscribe button to get a new episode every week. We'll see you next time on the Connectable Podcast.